Good evening, everyone. This is an interesting old left-handed guitar. This is one of two that Greg has brought me for setups, and I don't really I've not seen this model before, so a quick bit of searching on the internet with these giveaway knobs really showed me that it's an AES, Yamaha AES, I think, but correct me if I've got the wrong model, 620 or 920 or something like that. Anyway, it's a single cut Yamaha, and this is his #1 guitar. So what have we got? We've got a glued neck guitar, set neck guitar, kind of thickly finished over. I've taken the strap off via the strap buttons for a minute. I'll put those on afterwards. So it's got a belly carve, it's got through stringing and fixing on the back for the string. I don't quite know, hang on, what is it fixing on the back for? Okay, so the string ferrules units, these units are held, sorry if you can't see, those units are held by, looks like these hex screws on the hex bolts on the back. Anyway, how did I, oh right, this has two, yeah, okay, this has two strap buttons on it for standing up, I suppose. Let me just, yeah, standing up. So I've taken the one off with the strap. Anyway, so we have this beastie, and if we look on the back, we've got, oh look, AES620L, of course, I was right, it's an AES620, left-handed. Now, there's a few things. So first of all, a setup, and we're going to see if we can find some of the little plastic, no, nylon bushes that go on here, because down here they're gone, and up here it's gone as well. So we'll see if we can find some from some spare tuners. Now I've just junked a whole load, or sorry, given away in exchange for postage a whole load of tuners, so we'll have to see if we've got those things. But we should be able to find some. Now, what's right or wrong with this? So we've got the tuner issue, which we'll sort out. We'll change the nut for this tusk, left-handed tusk nut, which is almost exactly the same width, E to E. It's about 1/5 of a millimetre different in total, so it's hardly anything. We notice it's got a nice low action to begin with, so we'll change that out for tuning stability, clean everything up. Greg has lowered these pickups quite a lot, partly because his playing style, he finds himself hitting the tape that goes around it, and he's really worried about mashing up the wiring, the coils. So he asked me to get some covers. Now I found a set of matching covers, only about £6 each or £5 each, and they have to be precise. These are 49.2 and those are 49-ish spacing, so they will match. So we're going to stick some covers on these. Hence I've got some wax in here already and some solder pre-prepared, because to get these to fit we're going to have to lift the humbucker out, solder the plate, fit the cover, solder the plate to the cover and replace. Oh, and we need to also kind of a little trick I saw online, because I haven't done this before. Interestingly, almost nobody, in fact nobody has asked me to change covers or put covers on open coils before. I thought it was more complicated, but you need to join the bits together, and as long as these are soldered to the base plate, then it's grounded. So we're going to do that. He's also got a problem with these things here, and there's 2 points of problem. It's a cute looking Tunematic-y style bridge, but this one here, oops, sorry finger, that notch there appears to be breaking strings. So I think we need to have a sort of close-up look at all of them and see if we can't do a little bit of very careful sanding. I mean, again, we can sort of take some, I'll take some stills and zoom in, but and if there's, it's not easy to see, there may well be a kind of notch in there that's damaging things. Now, The difficulty with it is we have to, whatever adjustments we make there, we have to do it in such a way that retains retains the radius that the bridge has. So if we take one down, and it has to come down a little bit too far to clean out this blade or cutting edge that seems to be in here, then we may have to look at lowering the others. But if it's a matter of cleaning them all at the same time to prevent the ease breaking. The other thing that there is a problem with, and I'm not sure exactly how we're going to fix this, if I can hold this unit straight for a second. Sorry. If we look at the front of this, nice idea, but this is, I hear this is also breaking strings. There's a kind of a bit of roughness there. So this is not a very clever idea. If you actually look at the angle of the strings on the other one, it's doing the same, but obviously the thicker strings are a little bit more resilient. But that's a very sharp angle, and anyone who thought it would be a good idea to put it on essentially a copper-based piece covered in chrome was probably asking for trouble. It would have probably have been better that it came out of a standard ferrule for a through stringing guitar. But anyway, that is how it is. And we have these weirdy shaped knobs. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to bring my soldering iron up to the bench to do the covers, and we'll make sure they fit first. So we're going to have to take them up and out. Now, the thing about this is we discussed, I've got my notes here, so we've got the tuners to do, we've got possibly fret leveling. So I'm just looking at the frets are okay, they're sort of worn down in some areas. I can tell that I would say that Greg's mostly a player in this region, I reckon. More activity here than anywhere else. But the action at the moment is where he's comfortable with it, so he's not, well, he's kind of open to it being lowered if it's workable and if it's feasible, so, or if it even makes sense. So let's just take a look. Let's take a look at what the action appears to be. I'm sorry, I'm not even thinking about what you can see. Sorry about this. Viewfinders. Let's zoom out into a far away view and sort of go over there for a minute. So I'm just going to have a quick look. So of course everything's upside down in the land of left-handed guitars. So we got an action here of, I'd say 2.2, I'm going to call it 2.25 millimeters at the last fret. Sorry. Low E, last fret, 2.25. Now I can't tell right now what the E is going to be, but if it's anything like this one, we'll call it low E, sorry, high E, last fret of 2. So they are higher than they need to be. So if we're doing the thing that we've done on Greg's other guitar prior to this, then I went for a lower pop. Ow! That is painful. That caught my finger underneath here, and there's like a cutting edge on that switch. Yow! Yamaha, you're dangerous, I tell you. Okay, so a few little things. Pickup covers, bridge, saddle, notches, front edge of this. I mean, maybe we can sand it and flare it a little bit so it's not sharp. That's all I can do for it. It's just good. You know, the problem with this is it's almost wherever it goes, it can get sharp. But I can see a sort of notch on here which we really can do without. In fact, I can feel a notch in there which we don't want, especially if we do it with a blade. Yeah. Not brilliant. Metal, string on metal, it's going to happen. Okay, so we could lower the action and we can get everything cleaned up, and the frets have got enough life on to take some of the little play wear out and round off and recrown the frets which have worn flat over time. So it's got scope for that. What else? Yeah, so really it's a full setup with tusk nut, sorting these little things if we can, hopefully we can, followed by covers on the pickups, followed by fixing the missing nylon on the tuners if possible. So it's quite a lot of fiddly stuff along the way. Now normally I would sort of want to go in and do a leveling first, but we're already missing the E, so we would have to go for another pack of strings anyhow. My god, these are stiff. We'd have to go for another pack of strings anyway for sacrificial strings, so I just get the feeling that it's probably worth just taking this off now, and we'll get the pickups, we'll get the bridge stuff and the tuner stuff done, and then we'll put some sacrificial strings on and go from there, since it's going to, you know, just putting an E on and continuing with these strings will cost us another pack of strings. So, and I'm not complaining about that, they're donated strings. Simon very kindly keeps me awash with sort of cheap Chinese strings to really help out with the sacrificial string supply. Makes this sort of thing where you need to do something and then return and string up again, but you don't want to stress the actual you don't want to stress the good quality strings that you want to ideally put on the guitar for the player. So thank you as always, Simon. So I'm going to cut the curly ends off these for now and push out. So that means we can sort of get on to the, let's say, the pickup surrounds. Let's say they can do that first for fun. Hope we've got enough room to do it without undoing everything. Okay. This is this temperature in here is really odd. We're about 18 degrees inside here, and it suddenly gets really hot, well, steamy. It's very humid as well, so not a comfortable working temperature. I'd rather it was a little colder and knew what it was doing, but it doesn't. Okay, so let us begin with having a look at the pickups. There's a mixture of original and later added screws here. Now I'm presuming that having covers on these will give Greg a little bit more upwards movement on the pickup. Okay, let's get the machine thing. Let's do several things at once. Let's take this, let's move that, let's unplug that, let's take this out of the way. Come along. Sorry, I've got lamps in the way of cables, tangled up with cables. So I'm going to need the soldering iron. That's what I'm faffing about with over here. So put the soldering iron on there and the thing next to it. Sorry, let's remove that one for now. Yeah, weird weather, weird. Rainy as anything outside, but strangely sticky and warm. Okay, so we're going to need the screwdriver to undo the thingy. Right, okay. So, let's, God, it's filthy. Let's undo these. Remove that to there. Okay, got a little bit of extra room, which is good. Okay, so now I'm going to find my little bit of sandpaper. So we're going to sandpaper the edge of this brass, just to get rid of some of the there's quite a bit of wax kicking around on there, because we're going to need to join this up to the outer cover. Let's have a look at this first. Okay, not a bad fit. Yeah, it's not absolutely perfect, but it'll do. It's not quite. So these, I measured these at 49. There aren't that many variations, so if it doesn't come at 49, and that's if it's 49 and that's 49.2, and yet they don't quite fit up, then quite frankly there is nowhere else to go. So let's hope there is. Yeah, see. Okay. That's 49.2, and that's what they claim this is. But this one, I would say that's... how interesting is that? Let's push it through. There's a sort of limit anyway to how far it will go in. So it's a sort of visual thing going on, really. That is, wow, it's amazing. So what are we saying? That the replacement one is slightly less than the actual one, and I think what's happened here is, well, I don't know. I'm measuring these and they still seem to be identical, but that's not even possible. So I'm now getting the wax on there, which I didn't particularly want to do. Let's just look at these again. So we have, it's very difficult, there's no center point to exactly line up on. I've got to say that that is as close, 49.65 maybe, so there could be 0.4 of a millimeter in this. I mean, even if you sort of put it on from this side, you know, that would be as near as Intonation. Now, it might be that this matches up. I mean, this is I bought two the same, so they shouldn't match up, but actually, you know what? I've got a bizarre feeling they might just do it. How strange is that? Well, let's go ahead as if it will. So I need a little bit of tape. I want to cover. I'm going to use a little bit of, oh, this is going to make it stick out even further. I wanted to use a little bit of electrical tape, if I can find some. I've got a whole load kicking around somewhere. Electrical tape, anyone? Come on, I had about 6 rolls of the stuff, not doing anything much. Never use it. So when you want it, you can't darned well find it. Lead, no, don't need the lead. Anybody knows where that stuff has gone? Grey tape. Well, it doesn't really have to be electrical tape. It was, the idea was, it was there to try and stop the any vibration between the front of the cover and this coil here. I don't really think it's got to be that significant of material. Is it lead in here? Come on, it used to be around here somewhere. Maybe it's in this electronics pile. Wow, what a fabulous mess this is. It doesn't appear to be in there since I never use it. That makes perfectly good sense. Oh look, there is some here, even though I never use it. That's why it's still here. Okay, and from my experience, this stuff practically, it's covered in goo. It practically has zero stick to it anyway, so we might be lucky to get away with it. Right, so What did I reckon? I reckon this one worked perfectly for that size. You couldn't get much better. And I reckon this one appeared to work for that size. I mean, placing it down from this side, that seems to be workable, but maybe it's because it's held off a little bit that it doesn't quite match up. Weirdness. Right, so let's have a little bit of this tape. No, we don't want all of that. I don't like electrical tape. It's sort of an ancient technology. So that was the idea, that you covered the thingy like that. I can't scratch my eyes. And then you put this bit on like this. And you press them together. Now, I think maybe the other issue here is that it's as far as this will go into the thing. It won't actually go in any further. So if you want the what's-its to come out, you basically are going to have to I don't know what's going to happen. There isn't really any way of making this happen. It's not deep enough, and I can't, don't buzz at me, I actually can't push the humbucker in any further. It may go in, sink in a little further, courtesy of the wax, but the kind of idea was to do it up first and then melt the wax afterwards. Okay. What do we reckon? Do we reckon if we melt the wax, but then it will potentially come out through the hole and make things even more difficult? That's amazing. That is very slightly off, but that's not the primary reason why it's not going through. It's not deep enough. You actually probably find that at a push, the poles will come up flush. There you go. Look at that. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe that's the answer to it. Just bring the poles flush to the yeah, why not? That seems to be the purpose of them. I think it's just a reach issue. They look a little bit off centre, but now I'm pulling the screw poles out to level. It seems to be fine. As near as good as you're going to get. There you are, see? I mean, keep going and they match up even better, but right, let's get a bit of thingy here. Now, I've got a challenging little task in a second. Let's take this out first. Okay, so the idea now is I want to try and get a little bit of, inverted commas, tinned solder, or solder on there. That's what we want, just to help the joining up process for continuity, or for grounding. So let's see if we can encourage this to work. Okay, here we go. Of course, you've got to remember that your one's pickup is always a large cold lump of brass or some such. It's not very easy to get a reach on this. Large lump of brass which really doesn't want to heat up at the kind of rate that we want it to. Even if we've scratched it up a bit with some sandpaper. See, it's just, the solder is just going for a walk. That's a tricky situation. I wonder if I need to get some more deeper scratching going on that. See that? Going nowhere. Perhaps a blade will do this better. It might be simpler. I mean, it may, I'm thinking it's a contact with the metal issue, but actually, judging by this, it may well be because of the bulk of the brass, we can't get enough heat into it. That's much more likely. How do they ever get this to do it? Seriously. I mean, we can heat it for longer, but it worries me. Risk of damaging the pickup some way or other. Definitely not wanting to adhere. Blimey. Come on. I'll stand here forever and it's not going to take. No, it's just going to fall off. How did anyone make this work? Any answers? I mean, it's just too compact, too much brass. It's just not going to do it. There's solder going everywhere. It's melting the. It's busy melting the wax in the pickup now. I've got a feeling that this isn't ideal. I can't really think of a way around other than firing up the thermonuclear draper doofer, that thing. See, there's no way this is going to even make a connection in here. I mean, I can sort of load, solder into here, but it's not even going to heat the cover up enough to transmit the heat through. Trying. Wow. I may have to try a different device. This isn't pushing enough heat anywhere. Right, turn it down. Oh, damn. Here comes another crappy device. Right, well that isn't going to work at all, so that can be unplugged. Now we're going to go for brute forcery. Probably. If I put that in there, that isn't going to work either. Okay, you are now going to dangle off here, out of harm's way, right? Yes. Okay, well, boring. So what I really need is I need this to pinch in a little bit more. So I'm going to give it a little squeeze. But that's a very difficult state of affairs, I've got to say. There we go. And when I get the superheated thing, I'm just going to hope for the best. See if we can get some heat in there. I'll push that in a little bit further. Looks quite good with the thing sticking through, the part of the screws, but I never quite get it when people do those little demo videos and they go, yeah, and I just put some solder on here. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you're trying to solder a huge chunk of brass it's never going to warm up, or if it does warm up, you're going to end up sort of roasting roasting the whole thing before you get the thing hot enough. It's just shedding heat all over the place. I mean, it's like one massive heat sink. Anyway, we've got no choice but to try. Right, that's going to warm up slowly. Just hope it gets up to its maximum heat. That's so odd, isn't it? What other way could I do it? I suppose I could could even run a wire off this little lug here to the point there where it to the point on the cover where I can probably get some solder on. I mean, that's a way around. I suppose I could prepare couple of bits of wire just in case I have to go down that route. Oh, nice one, come on. So, a couple of bits of wire, so from here to here. Not my ideal choice, but needs must when something else won't play ball. So that makes very riveting video, I'm sorry. I could just switch off now and solve all the problems and come back when they're done. Right, so there's some bits of wire that I might sort of wrap round the corner and hook up like so, just to give us a chance. Up and across. A bit extreme, but give myself the best chance. So into there, down in there, down in there, tucked out of the way, possibly. Oh, we shall see. Let's see when this thing gets mighty hot, righteously hot. I mean, the other thing is, of course, I don't want to melt all of the damned. Well, I guess I might end up melting all of the wax, in which case this thing will sit right in there. The idea was we get it tacked down. The problem is it doesn't sit fully in as you're sort of about to try and heat it down. Oh well, we'll see. Now this soldering iron just seems to get hotter and hotter as time goes by, and to the point where you can barely hold the thing. So I'm going to start seeing what it will do to the outside of this, if it will transfer enough heat through. Oh, there's a big blob. It sheds heat. This whole arrangement sheds heat like nobody's business. And you take the iron off for 1 split second and everything you've achieved is gone. I reckon what happens here is that in real life people maybe get it touching, and for all I know they may never successfully make a solder connection, because I can't see what iron would heat this whole brass piece up. Look at that, with a hot iron there's so much heat shedding here that this thing just will not heat up. I mean, I can build up heat on the cover a little bit and get some solder on the inside, and then it gets stuck like that. Heat. Heat's just dissipating. Heat, 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 heat. Dissipation. Trouble is, what we'll end up with is something that's on the outside of the whole business, which I don't want. Well, you know, it's a lump of solder that doesn't convince me at all, and the whole pickup warms up. I could hold this here for a while, but as I say, you can see that it's not, even at this sort of position, the brass is shedding the heat so effectively I can't even heat the solder up. These things actually don't sound like feasible things. Great on paper. Now I wonder if that's too thick, but let's try something. See if I can get scratch this surface up here and get some sort of connection on here. That would be very cool. But so again, where can you put it and what angle can you put it at that's going to hold the heat and the solder. Wrong iron. Let us see. Right, if I put it on this side, you'd think eventually the heat would come through, but that's such a big piece. I can't see it doing it, frankly. The minute you have to remove your heat contact, then it just suddenly cools down again and you've lost any chance of it. But as you can see, it's refusing to do it. Try and load up from this side and see if we can get anywhere. Right, come on, transfer some heat through. You know you want to do it. It's not making a proper joint. I can tell. It's just shedding heat as fast as it can, wherever it can. So the solder's just running around. See that? So even that's impossible to do. I can't believe it. So we cannot even get a good connection on this tab. Not on this side of it anyway. I mean, it's just too much heat shedding going on. Now it's slightly stuck, but it's not doing anything that I want it to do. Do I look fed up? Do I sound fed up? That's because I am. Let's see if we could make this bit stick to that bit for fun. Not a hope in hell. It's just not a chance. Oh God, how infuriating. See, even that I don't think is properly connected, so far as if I pulled it, it would probably come undone. Well, maybe not. Maybe I got lucky, eh? So, what would be great, I think I may just have to give up after this, if I can get this little wire to connect down here at all. So you can get a connection there with some heat, but then it absolutely diffuses off into the rest of the pickup and it cools off, and that's your lot. It needs some sort of extender or a tab of some kind. I mean, alright, we could say that's connected. I mean, it's stuck there, but it's not a great connection. you know, that's one way. See, it's moving. It's not even connected to the brass. How would you make it? How would you make it work? I mean, no matter what I do, maybe some little furrows might help the heat get into it a bit more, but I somehow doubt it. You know, it's too much solid metal. It's going to shed that heat every second. God. I just cannot get it to put enough heat in there to do it. It just comes off. Just end up with bits of solder piling up. That's terrible. How is anyone supposed to do this? Any ideas? Yeah, chuck that away. I mean, it's so I've connected it to the wire, but that's not really connected to the brass. That's the weak point. It just will not transfer the heat, no matter how many watts it's got. That's too large an object. I honestly don't know how anyone really does this in those videos. I don't really believe they manage it. It's amazing. Absolutely incredible. Let me get the cleaner. So I'll probably just cut all of this out. In fact, I should probably just switch off and make this a non-video one, because it's just pointless. Right, come on. As much clean up as I can. It would be so nice if you could just put heat into this piece of brass. I mean, in a word, it isn't going to do it. I actually don't think anyone's got a soldering iron that's going to put enough heat into a pickup to make an electrical contact. I think anyone who thinks they've done it is probably kidding themselves. I think it would be better off to use this screw point as a connection. No, this is nuts. I mean, it can't even get enough heat into the shield, the cover. Let alone, I mean, this thing is roasting away. Oh, God. Oh, I've got 480 degrees available to me on the other thing. That's just incredible. Cannot make a piece of solder melt because there's too much heat sink going on around it. I suppose what I could check is to see what's continuous. It's not ideal. I can't stand the thought of it not actually being. So we want to know, is there continuity between the brass and the solder here? Apparently so. Between the solder here and the brass there. I guess I'm just going to have to live with it. I hate it because it is connected. It just feels like the worst joint ever made. Can you forgive me? I mean, there is continuity. Oh, I suppose so. Sorry, the thing I didn't check. Oh. Well, it should be. Okay. Yeah, it's continuous. So I'm just being something-ish. Yeah, fussy. Now what I wanted to do was I wanted to fire my heat gun at this thing, but I also want to keep it out of the way of the rest of the guitar. So let's hike it up. Let's just do this. Take off the stay there. Nice and hot. Good. Right. Let's get it back onto its little housing. Sorry about that long delay. I just not impressed by the difficulties of getting a. All right. Having done that, it's done what I wanted, which is it's got the softened the wax. That's okay. I don't mind that. Yeah, not impressed by the difficulties of melting solder. We can wipe the excess wax off here in a minute. Ah. Okay, nice and warm. In you go. And this is actually, that's even height. I thought it was slanted. This one is actually even. It's all one height. Have I gone mad? No, that's why it's low. It's. Let me just get my head around. This is low because this is too high a ring. What this really needs, it's a flat bottom, isn't it? Yeah, so it's got to be flat bottom, but it needs a lower one. This ain't right. That's a round one. Oh, somebody find me a flat bottom one. Ooh, no, round. Ooh, 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 rounded again. No, curved. No quill. Just hoping. Nope, rounded. Rounded. Everything's rounded for Les Pauls. Oh, hold on. Do you know what? That's a better bet. A better bet. Right, here we go. Let's get this. Do this again. So that's the reason why this was dialed in so far, because this ring holds it too high up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the screws, chuck this ring off to one side, and use, hopefully, assuming it all works the right size, etc., we'll use this one to do the same thing, but to allow us to have it seated lower, but still look like it's sticking up a bit. Come on. Oh, yeah, yeah. This business of old-fashioned screws and springs and bits of brass is quaint, but my God, is it a pain in the royalties. Right. Here we have the lower profile. Yes. Oh, right. I say, let's put this back in here and have done with it, shall we? Hurrah! Sorry about this very slow poke of a job. Oh, blimey, that one's knackered. We may struggle. We may have to find some more of these things. Right, lovely. Okay, nice new cover. A bit of wax poking through here and there, so it's hard to get it shiny perfectly, but yes, ta-da! No, ta-da! I hate that piece of tape anyway. Right, now let's take that off as well for a minute. Now let's get this one out. This is the one that Greg was hitting with his plectrum, so it won't be a problem once it's covered up, so that will cure it. Now I will need to reuse this thing, but we've got a bit of a mess here with these screws. They are worn, but they're also full of gunge, so we may struggle to get the screwdriver to do its stuff. Right, so here we go. Okay, we can do it. I did get that solder onto the cover there, but we're still going to have the same challenge, I know. Oh well. Let us see what we can do. Come out of there, please. Right. Let's cover up with another bit of, oh yes, this tape on the floor down here. Yeah, I think even though that isn't what I would call a fantastic electrical, it's not a great solder, you know, the fact that it says it's continuous, electrically continuous, means it's doing what it should. Even though it offends my sense of decency. Okay. Now, I'm probably going to have to do the same with the what's-its. And we have to just watch out because this is a little bit stuck. Squeeze it together. Now this one does look straight up too small, which it can't be because it's the same bleeding size. Let's get together again. Oh Lord. Let us wind up the screws. They're a bit mucky too. Wind up the screws and then we'll see if we can thread them through the eye of the needle. We'll give them a clean as they come up. I don't want to know what's in this DNA mixture. So giving a bit of height should let these locate better in the holes for a start. So we should be in a better position. But if this Seymour Duncan is a tiny bit off the mark, then we're sort of stuck with it. And of all the pickup manufacturers in the world whose pickup spacing drives me nuts, it's Seymour Duncan. Well, I answered an ad in one of the join my band things. Somebody made a comment the other day of, asked me if I was, along with doing all the guitar work, was I filling my musical needs, my musical appetite. There you go, pushed through. That's a bit of hard work, but it's in. See that? So they line up eventually when you get them pushed in, but they had to be up for that as well. Okay, so now we're going to try and play the same game again. So I answered an ad, some local chaps. So I thought, okay, that could be cool. Some nearby people. But we shall see. So I think we'll meet up for a cup of coffee or something, and that'll be very nice after several years. A covers band sort of situation, so who knows. Now I'm going to try and get this solder just wiggling off everywhere. I think I might have to just hold fire a minute. Yes, so sort of covers band with a, they sent a list of a few tracks I already recognise. I certainly know 80% of the tracks they sent, and probably played 50% of them before somewhere, sometime or other. Right, oh, that's there. Let's try up here as well. Which side am I going? I'm going that side. Yes. So, interesting. It's always that kind of thing where it's a start-up band. People are in other bands and have been together in other bands and stuff. But they're, I guess, about 15 minutes drive away. So that's not a bad start option. It's a very practical consideration. You've got to be within reasonable close proximity. It's a hell of a lot simpler all round if they are. Right, I'm just going to go and see if, having done some scraping and sanding, whether I can actually get, I think I can actually get enough heat on this metal piece here. Wow, look at that. I've actually got some heat in there. Fabulous. So I know that that's now got to just get as far as the cover. That's all I've got to do. So I know I can attach the wire to that end. Now let's try and make this cover. Let's get some solder into this bit here, wherever I can get it actually. Trouble is there's cloth down here. That's going to make it difficult at this exact point where I've got the solder on the cover. Cloth's going to get in the way. Well, I'm going to put the wire across it again and see if we can use the same technique. angles, right angles please, up and across, origami type of thing. Come on now, that to there, that to there, something like that. That's definitely stuck on there, which is encouraging. This is only, inverted commas, got to make it as far as the cover casing, which I should be able to do without too much misery here. Yeah, doesn't feel brilliant at that side, but we'll do the same checks again. This is a quick way of yanking it and see if it comes off. Okay. Right, we want continuity between the casing and the inside metal. Yay! Ba, 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 ba. Hurrahs! Right, you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. Go over there. Will I ever get going? So, next fun, let's have a bit of heat on this. Let's turn this thing off. Let's get some heat going on this cover. Let's get it melted on the inside. Stick it there like that for a minute. Let it settle down in its own good time. Okay, we're sort of almost at the beginning. So while I'm waiting for that to not soften, harden is the right word. And before we put these bits back on, what I will do is I'm going to take some. No, I aren't. I was going to take some photographs, pictures, you know those things, of that thing, the saddle. So let me find my other phone, which is right here. Let's see if I can get any sort of view. It's really hard. This isn't the best of the phones. The iPhone that I'm filming through would have been a better guess, but okay. See what we can get with this anyway. Zoom, please. Okay. Come on. It's not that easy to see, is it? Where are you? Where are you? You're there. I mean, it's not a bit ragged, is it not? So, I suppose what we want to do is we want to smooth it out first of all, and then we want to once we've smoothed it out, we would like to. I've looked at the wrong one, haven't I? Plonker. Well, that's interesting. You know what I've discovered? Oh, it's always the way. I've seen this before, and I knew it was that. Right. So these bridges are right-handed. And what they've done, I don't know how. Let's have a come here. Come here. Let's see what you can see. Okay. So you look down here and you go, little notch, big notch. What's the little notch for? It's the little notch should be. Oh no, hang on a minute. Is this the right way around? This is a, oh, let me get this right. This is the, is that the correct way? I thought it was back to front, but it is, but it's bloody sharp. I was thinking that we had the strings in the wrong one, but no, look at this. That is, oh no, you can't see it. Sorry, that was me thinking I got it, figured it out, but that is the notch. See the notch. Yeah, you see how sharp that is? Can actually feel the, it's on the back that it's actually roughest. So that is the thinnest bit, right? Of course it's that way around. So what would be great, I don't know if I can even do this, but let's imagine I was a surgeon and we were zoomed in at this ridiculous angle and I was looking through at my amazing camera. Oh my god, I can't do this. Huh. Can I get even closer? No, that's it. That's your lot, fella. So what would you be doing? Oh yes, you'd be getting your file and you'd be going, oh, it's in the slot there, and you'd have a little feel of it and you'd go, can I feel anything? Well, I can feel it, but so what we really need to do, those that look okay, see how that's smooth at the bottom, that and that one. So I think we've got to get a smooth run through here, and I just think we have to do it with the file. There's no two ways around it, and it's not so deep that it's going to make that world's difference. Can you see what I've done there now? I've cleared it out, right? And what I'll do is I'm going to do the same with this one just to be safe. And I think I'm not going to do the other one, so I'm going to do those two, and then I'm going to get some sandpaper, 400 grit, and the blade that I was using before. Please, a blade, anywhere, anyone, help me, thank you. Blade. Oh, look at that zoomy close-upness. Can I wrap that round the blade? And I'm going to pretend you can see it because I can't see it. I'm looking at it in the flesh, real life. And then I'm going to use the bladed end of this. Now it's quite a wide load of stuff going through that slot. As it stands, in a way it would be much better if we could have just a very thin piece of paper on its own, but I can't really get that flat enough, I don't think anyway, to work very efficiently. Maybe get in the camera if you would. So just using the 400 grit to try and take the sharp bits off here. I'm doing kind of round the corners if I can. Yeah, it's nice and smooth. I'll do the same for the other, for the B one as well. It's difficult to do without the blade holding it in place, but I mean, in a way I could probably do with doing it for all of them, but I guess the other ones aren't breaking strings at present, or if at all. Now, the thing about it is, if you think about it, the string's coming out this side, so it has two places it could break. One is on this back edge here. Oh, sorry, not very good view. Hold on. One against this back edge here where it's sticking up a little bit. Can you see the little burr? So I'm going to now use the back or flat edge of this blade and the 400 grit to just try and flatten that off a little bit. Same. It's obviously going to scratch the chrome a little bit on the back of the saddle anyway, but don't really have an awful lot of choice if we want it to stop breaking strings. So yeah, you can see it's going to sanding it down a little bit, but that's taken the sharp edges off. I think we're just going to have to settle for less string breaks, hopefully, and we don't care if it's a little bit of copper showing through. You see that? That's smoother. Okay, and then really just a few times through with the paper. Now I can see straight away that the E slot is a little bit lower than the B slot on the saddle itself, but bearing in mind that the E is already lower anyway because of its position in the radius, so it'll only just be a tiny amount lower in the overall scheme of things. I think that's a good option. Right, let's go to full zoom out while we do the next bit. So here we are, nice and warm but not liquid anymore. Okay, let's get ready to put this back together. Stone Age technology works every day for you and me. Adam very kindly sent me down a leftover, once already read copy of Guitarist, featuring this one featuring Les Paul's original guitar, and you know, it's really interesting to see what a ramshackle old piece of junk it was. Well, you know, in the nicest way. You know, it was doing all manner of tests and looked kind of, it looked like he was experimenting on it all the time, which was great. But yeah, it had a huge, great cavity in the back for allowing him to move the pickups forward and backwards. But also what really interested me about it was the fact that he used P90s, but he'd fitted two dummy coils. One in the gap in the back between the pickups, and the other one in the enlarged switch cavity. So that was interesting to see. You know, that he was using dummy coils rather than a humbucker. I think they said in the magazine that rumours that he didn't like humbuckers apparently aren't the case. This is interesting. This is sitting like jammed in place. I wonder why. Gosh darn it. Now, this is one of those situations where I don't think there's enough room for this to sit straight. That's the problem. I think it could be all this wiring getting in the way here. Yeah, look at that. Or is it the wiring? You know what? I think the problem is we've got too much. We've got too much screw sticking out the bottom. That's my feeling. What's stopping it move? Is it the width? Has it got too wide to move? Too wide to move, too young to die. Yes, that's what's happened. Ah, gadzooks, it's this. It's too wide. No. Damn it. Right, that's no good. I have to put the soldering iron back on. We've got to pull that together. Remember, I squeezed the other one together, and this one has to do the same, unfortunately, although it didn't kind of let us know at the time. So it's not really going to do very well in squeezing together without loosening. I don't think it will anyway, without loosening off this. First of all, does it fit in? See, like that's, yeah, just. Okay, we could just get away with it now. So we may not have to melt things again. Just marginal, that's all. Just very, very marginal. Yes, it's so difficult with these old things. But yes, so talking about Les Paul's #1 guitar, it was just a test bed really, and it looked like it, which was nice. But I was impressed with the dummy coils, because I've used them before, and I was astonished by how well they worked. And I thought, at that time, I thought, why don't I just put dummy coils in everything from now on? Every single coil guitar that's in even the slightest risk of, just about right. Even anything in the slightest risk of humming, shove the dummy coils somewhere. Okay, so out of interest, right, we've been going for an hour, it's 20 minutes just to get these two things done. Now we haven't even got onto the tuners yet. Good Lord. Right. Huzzah. Right, these are a bit gummed up. That's fine. They can be tweaked at anyone's leisure. Right, so that's good. Now the only thing that I'm not confident about is this. Greg had been saying that he thought things were breaking right here, and let me put the lid back on this thing, and yet the last one broke on the bridge. So I wonder if we should undo this first of all and see if we can handle it away from the guitar. There it goes. All right, thank you. Is that fallen out? No, it's still held in place. Okay, so we've got the, I mean, that would almost be better if it came out straight into the wood, or a modern version of a ferrule, but you know, it would spoil the look, obviously. So here we have it. Da, 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 da. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? All I can do is a bit of sanding. I can't really do anything else. There is somewhere down here, there is a pointed, slightly pointed Dremel bit, but I can't really find it. Yeah, so all I can really do is hand sand it a little bit, just to get out the sharp bits, if at all possible. I mean, we could do it with a small file, and then we've got to sand it out afterwards again anyway. So let's have a zoom in and see what we can see. Right, so there's the scratchy bit. Obviously this is going to be the worst possible view again. Let's see if I can stabilize the operation. You are there, 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 you are pointing here. Okay, so what I don't want is a sharp bit there. This is not even the best device. Although I can get out, probably can get out that notch, but the problem is this is copper based hardware and it's going to notch again. There's no real solution to that other than, I mean, a way you could do is bring some rubber up through here, like a little piece of shrink rubber tubing, and have it just coming to the lip of here, and that, yeah, but that would cut through too because of the angle. It would eventually break through, cut through. So it's a bit of a, it's just an impossible design idea really, and it's gonna constantly re-notch, and when it re-notches it will break the string. So it's kind of about all you can get out of it is a temporary relief really. And it's even hard to do that. It's cut quite deeply into there already. Let's have a look if I've got any softer mandrels. Oh, here's a mandrel. Little mandrel, that'll do. Let's try that one. Let's find the right thing. Oh, not you. Not you. Nor you. You plugged in. Sorry. So all of this, you can get out of the way for a minute. All of this taking good old-fashioned time. Right, so I've got this little polishing stone here, which I'm going to put onto this. What's it? Turn the speed down a bit. And I'm going to try and gently eke out this little slot. Now it's tricky because it's already worn a fairly substantial little slot in there, and I can get rid of the slot, but the problem is it's going to try and do it again. And of course, as you can see, it's going to bring up, it's going to take us down through the chrome to copper. Let's have a look. So it's got the notch out of it. Now I'm going to have to try and do the same kind of thing with the sandpaper. I want to think about where the rough surface will be that's going to break things, if anything's going to break. So again, we're going to go down to the copper under here. There's no two ways about that, because the notch is already through anyway. So the objective is here is to make this as smooth as possible. Sorry, not a very good view. So I've taken the notch away, and I'm now just trying to, what am I trying to do? I want to make a little funnel. Do I want to make a funnel? Sort of, like that. Ooh. Not the best funnel ever made. Not at all. Boring, full zoom. So let's have a thinner funnel like that. Okay, that's not so bad. Better than before. Sorry, I'm trying to concentrate on providing a meaningful filmic experience. So I'm using the 400 grit as a sharpened little cone to get as much smoothness into this as possible. I think that's as good as it's going to be. There's a very tiny notch in there still, but I don't want to dig it down any further. Let's call it improved for the time being. We'll see if it performs better. If it doesn't, then I think what you have to expect, or what you have to accept, is that it's a lousy design. Simple as that, really. Maybe you could get another set of these from new anyway. That's the other thing. All I know. This is a bit worrying. This is just turning and turning and turning. Oh dear. So what's wrong with this? Well, it's attached, but that's very odd. Right, well, let's zoom out now. We've got some more fun and games down at this end. What have we got? We've got two, three, right. I'm just going to put a little mark on these so that when I turn them over, it's obvious which they are. But I don't take every one of them off, which is very easy to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do, missing tuner screws, a tuner screw. Right, let's get this one off. Now if I can find some of these, I was wondering whether we could not in fact replace all of them if I can find a matching set, but that depends, because a matching set will have to come off an existing tuner, so it's a sort of destructive process. I did have a load of spares that I didn't care about, but let's see if I still do. Failing that, it may have to be a set. You can buy them, but they're just expensive. So let's start with the option of finding two to begin with. So if we come back to here, we'll go into super zooms again, and pardon me, we take off the pedal thing, the button knob thing, and off it comes, and we've got a little circular washer thing, that one there, little washer, and then we should have a no, perhaps I should have taken another one off as a comparator. We should usually, I think it's a split nylon thing, but let's take another one off just to compare and contrast. And being nylon, that's why it, I took the one off without that was convenient. It doesn't have a tuner button. It came off. Okay, so this is the one with the washer on it, and okay, so we've got, this has got the nylon spacer on the inside, followed by the metal bushing. Okay, so let's stick that back on there for now. These were done up a bit too tight as well. They don't need to be done up so tight. It just makes them stiffer than they need to be. You tend to do it if you're missing your nylon thing, because it feels loose, because it's lost a piece of the thing that was holding it in place. So then you tend to tighten it up, which can run the risk of stiffening it unnecessarily. Right, I'm going to pile into my bag of spares and have to go right to the bottom to find something. Now I think I have literally, quite literally, donated stroke sold all of my tuners and chucked away all the spares. Okay, now I'm going to sacrifice some for the cause here, and I'll do it on the basis that I know they're going to be ones I'm not going to use, but let's just double check. That's a bad week. So these are some okay tuners, but you know what, they're not the be all and end all. So let's borrow and see if we get anywhere close to a fit. They would surprise me if they're not a standardized item. Yep, there you go. That one's a split ring, that other one isn't. So there we go. That goes on there. That goes on there, kind of like so. Okay, we'll borrow. It's rendered a set of tuners Kernacked, but I'll keep an eye out and see if there's any I can rescue. But they're not the most important things in the world. So that's one sacrificial donor. Let's have a look. What are these? Those are squares and these are no names. So I will go with the no names first. Although they seem to be okay quality. I'll have a look and see how much a set of replacement nylon tuner, it's just so funny. I had hundreds before because because so metal followed by nylon, metal, nylon, oh no, sorry, nylon inside then metal. Nylon inside. Yeah, I had just so many, and then I put them all in a bag. It came to 1.5 kilos, so I offered them to anyone on We Love Guitars for the price of postage and got a taker, and they all went off. Now, this is not very encouraging. Why isn't this fitting? Ah, thank you. Okay, so I have now fitted nylon washers to the tuners and created a pair of spares. Oh, the rain is absolutely hammering it down out there. One of these days I'm going to have to go back up in the roof space and empty out or check the rain drip overflows, which I haven't done since the summer. So it could be, we could have a massively overfilled set of reservoirs up there, basically buckets to catch the drips. Okay, here's my 3 tuners going back on, my test ones plus my good ones. One of them short of a tuner screw, as we know. You get on there. Huzzah! Tipping it down. Okay, so that's that taken care of. So we're almost ready to start the next stage. I actually have a feeling that I might leave this till tomorrow because it's 7:30 already. Sam, I put your comments, something. Right, let's get a tuner screw while we're at it. Solve this problem. Good. Fine. Lovely. Let's do them all up just to make sure. Right, done up. Lovely. Okay, so let's get a cloth that isn't that one. It could be that one. Right, let's give this a rub down. So we've adjusted that, we've tweaked, we've done the pickups, we've done the tuners, we've done the bridge saddle, we've done the through body thing, ferrule E-type thing, and now we're pretty much left with the entire setup, including fitting this new nut, which is going to be challenging because, well, hopefully it won't. Hopefully the Yamaha old nut will come off without any fuss. He said, fingers crossed. So I'm just going to give this a quick going over just now because it is pretty grimy. Okay, so I'm not going to do anything with the fingerboard just yet because that's going to get dirty again. So what I want to do is let us take off the truss rod cover so we can get at the nut. I'm going to need to change the nut over, and then we need to set sacrificial strings to get ready for the fret leveling. So we got it enough rainy out there. Let's have a look at the construction of this. This looks like it's done properly, he said. Let's check the height of this one. That should be a good swap over. Let us whack something. Thank you, Yamaha, for doing it the right way. Okay, so this is going to go on there, so like so, and I'm going to take a little bit off either side. It's a fraction too long. Yeah, that's not. I measured it. Yeah, so it is a fraction too long. We need to take a bit off either end. And so that's pretty good fit width-wise, so on. That would sit in there nicely. Tiny bit of sanding just to get it to fit in the slot there. These nuts are never flat on their faces. They're always a little kind of gloopy and indented because of the way they're made in some sort of mould. They're not mirror smooth, which is weird, but it's the way it is. So now it's almost smooth, and it probably just fits in now perfectly like that. Good. We need to lose 0.5 millimeter off either end, for which I will use this interesting device here. Okay, not far off. Take a bit off, a bit more quickly off. Tiny bit more on the base side. And then smooth it off with this. Okay, now a little bit rounding off on the corners, but side to side that's absolutely fine. We'll take the sharpness off here. Sharpness off there. Sharpness off here. So I'm just tidying up this nut, getting it ready for use. Just taking the sharpness off it. There we are. Okay, so that fits now nicely. The only question or thing about issue about this nut at this point will be the height of the slots. So what I'll need to do is I'll need to measure those down, and we'll use the sanding board to wear this down to the right height, or to the correct first fret action, as close as we can from the bottom. That's the game. So I'm just taking the sort of sharp edges away. There we are, sits beautifully, and will be a fraction too high. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take a measurement off here with the micro doofer. So the height from the ground, from the base to the inside of the low E is 721. 721. Low E, 721, high E. So we go, that one is 721, and the high E, as close as we can measure it, because it's barely a slot at all, is going to be, on this one it's 763, which is usually higher because the fact that it doesn't have a noticeable slot V-notch the way the other one does. So on this one we want to get to the same thing. So on this one it's currently 795, so I'll do that in a different colour. So we've got 795, we want to get down to 721, so you can see how much from one side, and then over here we've got 841 down to 763. So if I get another colour again so I know where I'm at, on one side, top or the base side, we're coming down 0.74 of a millimetre, and on the treble side we're coming down 0.8. 0.8 is, yeah, about 0.8. It's actually 0.78. So it's almost the same on both sides, 3/4 of a millimetre. And that's very difficult to measure. 0.75. I haven't got really got anything I can mark it with. It's a black nut. It's barely going to show anything we try and mark on it. Yeah, difficult. So 3/4 of a millimetre. Let's see if we can make any attempt at marking it. See if I can get a pencil sharp enough to do the job. No, I've just snapped the end off the pencil with my blunt blade. Right, 3/4 of a millimetre. Let's just line this up. No, that's gone to 1. 0.75, come on, there we are. 3/4 of a millimetre. I'm just going to draw along this line in a straight line, the same thickness all the way across, and we'll call that the 3/4 of a millimetre line. You can just about see it. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. See it? Right, that's my 3/4 of a millimetre line. If we zoom out, push that out of the way, move my book, and push the guitar in question out of the way also. Then we can bring up the sanding bed, and obviously I'll keep checking while I'm going. The line's just for a bit of extra guidance. That's not the nut, that's the old one. Okay, so I want to take off 3/4 of a millimetre as straight as I can. without going off side to side. Now if as soon as I start going off side to side, I can try and re-straighten the nut and make sure it cuts in vertical. And then I stop there and go, right, almost there. And then I'm going to very carefully go to the finer sanding material, because I want this to come very slowly down to the mark without overcutting. So let's have a look. So this is a very slow and difficult point of the operation. So we're almost at the right size. So fit in there and see how it sits. It sits pretty well actually. And then let's look at the measurement that we've got. We're looking for 721, 756, 763. So we're about 0.3 still to go. But what all I'm really bothered about now is keeping this 90 degrees and straight. So it's a perpendicular bottom matron. And that's really done by eye, I'm afraid. There's no better way to do it than by eye. And if you go wandering off the vertical, then basically you have to correct it by hand and eye as well. Just comes with experience. And then measure it one more time. 748, we're still 0.2 above. 770, 2.2, that's good. We're coming down at a controllable rate, and it's all going to work out just fine. Now at this point in time, probably better to lean less heavily, do kind of lighter, greater repetitions as we get close to the mark. And if you're nearly perpendicular, you can't go too far wrong. 765, we're on the mark now. 739, a fraction high at the base end. I'm done. Alright, so some of the most delicate bits of the operation done, including this nut business. So the care I've taken to get that right is fundamentally so that I don't have to cut into those slots. Of all the things I don't want to do, cutting those slots is one of the most important things. If I have to, I will. If I have to make a correction, I will, but I really am trying to avoid that at all costs. I want the strings to be at the right height. This is a bit too runny, the super glue, I think. I want it to be at the right height without having to do any downward cutting in the slots, because even though you can do it, and I did it on a guitar yesterday, you know, where sometimes you have no choice, you have to make a nut and you have to cut the slots yourself, so be it. But with something, wherever possible, my aim is to not do that and to only use the if you like, the factory condition slots, which I think is, you know, it's a good enough start point. Now I'm just out here fiddling around looking for 10s. I need a 10s. Here we go. Now these are interesting. Simon's donations, vacuum foil wrapped, individually numbered, we'll get these on and then we'll throw them away again, which seems a bit crazy. These do look actually quite good condition strings, but what do I know? So they come with the little paper tabs which always get caught and hooked up on the string. So this is going to be putting these strings on now for the purpose of leveling. Okay, so bear with me while I put these all through here. 5, 4. Yes, I think we may end up finishing this tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how we get on. It's grizzly out there, the weather. But there we are. I mean, what else is there to do other than guitar work? I mean, why would I be running away from the workshop? Surely I'd want to spend all my time here. Oh, Christ. Sorry. Maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't. Come on, strings. Anyway. Well, you can always tell the Chinese strings because for some reason they coil like nobody's business. They really want to stay coiled up. Maybe it's they've been in their packaging so long, I don't know. But they come through and then they sit in a coiled mess on the other side. But they look pretty good. I have to say they look fairly decent quality. There's no rusty patches or dirty patches that you sometimes, black spots that you sometimes find on cheap Chinese strings. But your test of them really is how they play, but also whether they come apart at the ball end, because that's quite a common problem. Okay, so I'm just gonna, because I just put glue on, I'm gonna start with the D up here. Oh yeah, put the bridge on, that might help. It's currently, it's probably a bit too low, so I'm going to have to put the strings on lightly first and then figure out the optimum bridge height. So these are still a bit too stiff, these tuners, so I would be tempted to just slack that off a little bit. That's better. There's no real advantage on tying those buttons up any tighter. It doesn't make the tuners stay in tune better, it just makes it harder to work. Because all you're doing is tightening up the knob part, if you excuse the expression, the pedal bit. Well, I say that, I don't think it's having any effect on anything else particularly, it just tightens the whole thing up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do these first two and then I'm going to check the bridge height and adjust it with my fingertips, because it doesn't have a screw thing at the top. Now it's possibly moved a little since I've had it off the guitar. So what I kind of know is roughly for now what I'm looking for. It's probably a little bit too high, as is this. Okay, let's start with that. What I should have done, of course, is before I was putting the strings on, I should have taken the time to mark up the frets, because that's easier to do now. Ready for leveling. I've put new 400 grit paper on my StewMac U-channel truss rod. The reason for that is it's run out. I don't believe it. I had put some 180 grit on it previously, because I was using it to remove some wood on the neck of Greg's bass in an experiment, which was to do with the fact that just because they don't have frets on them, there's no reason why bass necks aren't subject to the same mountainous topography that 6-string guitar necks are subject to. So on that basis, the plan was to check that, which I found that they were uneven, and then to level it out a little bit, which I was able to do, but it didn't really change the situation as far as Greg was concerned, because there was a sort of slight growly noise or a hornety buzz that the fretless bass makes. Seems to be, whether you like it or not, kind of situation. So it may be inherent to that kind of guitar, so there may not be a way around it. I have to say, my memory of playing the fretless bass, I'm not a bassist, but I played one. The only bass I've ever played really was a fretless, and it was back in the Paul Young, Pino Palladino, wherever I lay my hat era, you could say. You know, and we played it because we liked that noise, but it definitely had a kind of hornet buzz, angry hornet buzz, especially up the top high strings right at the top, or middle upwards. It definitely had that. I wouldn't call it a growl, I'd call it a buzz, an angry hornet, or you've upset the bee's nest sort of buzz. Okay, whoops, get that up on the saddle would help. Okay, so another one too stiff. So once we've got this on, sound like John Major. Once we've got this on, I will level the frets. Same old process as if it's left or right, it don't matter none. I'll check the neck relief as well before I do that, because I don't know what it's at. Yeah, not great design. A bit like when Gibson made their zero glide, zero fret nut thing, and they built the whole thing out of brass, and the base was okay made out of brass. The adjustable, or the bass cradle, if you like, made out of brass was okay. I hope that's not an airplane. What kind of sound you want to hear in a rainstorm with zero visibility? Anyway, all's well that's possibly ended well. Yes, so they made this zero fret contraption, which was a pretty nifty invention. Unfortunately, it wasn't very smart, in that the saddle part they made was brass as well, and because it was effectively a zero fret, an adjustable zero fret, which in principle was a great idea, but it ended up with strings sitting 24 hours a day on a brass zero fret. That was basically it, that you could adjust up and down. But the problem with that was, because the zero fret that was brass, it notched instantly without even having to look at it. So customers weren't thrilled. do one more stretch just to get it seated, and then we'll go into the fret leveling part of things. Yeah, so the you know, making things that strings sit on 24 hours a day, making them out of brass is not good, or any soft metal. Okay, we're ready. Let's just check the action I've got down here before I do any leveling. Okay, oh yeah, nice. Just under 2, and that's on 1.2, so it's around about my target action, which is where we like to go. Now, let's just check for neck relief. A little. Somebody's doing some work. Okay, bits of fret slap to get rid of, which will be fine. Well, let's jump into it and do it. God, we've been running non-stop now for 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 minutes? 2 hours, 2 minutes. Non-stop. Right, I can't see what you can see. Oh, good old long view. Right, let's calibrate the doofer. What's it called? The Banania. From the land of Banania. Hello. Somebody made a comment that what I was doing was rather similar to the katana tool that they'd seen one time in the past or something, and I had to sort of gently, politely point out that that's where I learned this. However, for tiresome reasons, I wasn't able to continue to use it, and so I improvised my own and carried on, and have been doing the same ever since. But the important thing that I kind of think I ought to stress, low but okay, low, but not too bad. Yeah, the important thing to stress is that what I've learned to do with this is the important thing, the result of 6-7 years of using this technique. That's where we've got a problem right there. So we are quite low, so I may back off this, but do not to begin with. Yeah, so the issue for me was, well, the important thing is what I've learned that this method teaches me about the condition of the neck and how to use this tool to get the best results. And you know, the tool itself, the katana tool, can't teach you that. It's, you know, the years of practice that will teach you. And actually, I think the important thing is committing to it and continuing to use the technique long enough that you can learn from it. I'm going to do a tiny bit more on the top end, but if necessary, I know that we're not under huge pressure to go downwards too far on the action, so I won't push it too hard. I'll just do this last bit up here. Yeah, so it's the learning about the technique that's the kind of critical bit that you can't, you know, no tool is a substitute for. So I think that 7 or 8 years of working with this is the important bit. Now, there's nothing to say that had I carried on using the katana, I would have, you know, I probably would have, I almost certainly would have learned to read the system the same way and would have got good at using that tool in the same way that I've got used to using this. But you know, it's a principle. I've never claimed this principle to be my own. All I've claimed is that I've stuck at it and developed an understanding of what it can do and what it teaches me about the neck. And that's the really important bit. So what I'm doing here is I'm gently leveling the fingerboard as opposed to any individual frets. So there's a distinction in that fret leveling is about leveling out 1 or 2 specifically high or low frets, but what I'm tending to do nowadays is, even when there isn't a single high or low fret obviously getting in the way, I tend to use this method to also remove what I call fret slap, which is the kind of frets buzzing noise that is characterized by being on pretty much every fretted note all the way up a string or in large chunks of a single string, whereas fret buzz tends to be what I associate, or the way I describe it or use the term is to describe buzz that's associated with an individual high or low fret. So fret slap is buzz that's associated with a large series of frets in a row on a neck. And so what I tend to use this method for now is to iron out the various bumps on this neck that will cause fret slap. And to do that, it's less about pressing hard down to get rid of an individual high fret or bottom out an individual low fret. It's about trying to get the truss rod tool to impose its smooth curve gently onto the bumpy and uneven surface of the board. Well, not the surface of the board, the cumulative fretboard. So it's all the frets together that make up this bumpy topography. Because taken all together, the neck is a curved thing, or the frets are, generally speaking, a curved, they map a curved surface, but they do it in a sort of bumpy way. And this tool has the ability to impose its more perfect curve onto the less perfect curve of the fretboard itself. When I say fretboard, I mean the curve traced out by the fret tops. That's what I mean, as opposed to the fingerboard, which is the wood, and the frets individually, which are the frets. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just looking to make these frets all play without any fret slap. I'm less concerned about the fret wear. A little bit there. My take on this is if I can remove or tidy up the fret wear while I'm doing this, then that's a bonus, but I don't think it's a viable exchange to remove too much fret metal in pursuit of a something that's effectively a cosmetic thing. You're typically fret play wear has to get quite serious before it gets in the way of actually playing the guitar. So I don't think it's a good exchange to trade out fret life for cosmetic damage. Now, on this setup here, I can see that I'm gently removing quite a lot of the fret wear, but I'm not going to get all of it out of these top 3 frets. There's still going to be little dents left in there because I'm not prepared to sacrifice overall fret life on all the frets just to bottom out those wear grooves. Not a good trade-off in my book. If we get rid of it whilst doing what I'm doing, which is trying to take care of the fret slap and the overall playability, then fine. But if it doesn't, we'll accept that and live with it. But by the time I've polished this all out, I'll hardly notice the remaining wear anyway, if at all. Might not even be noticeable. Okay. Good. And the final one, which we'll calibrate for as well. So the high E gets calibrated for separately on a left-hand guitar because it's the other way around, which is pretty cool. So once I've done this, we'll then re-crown all the frets, and then I will get set up to polish them out. And I'm doing it the opposite way. I'm slacking it off, and I need more curve. Sorry. Sometimes my brain goes the opposite. Reminds me of my glider pilot training. Left rudder, left rudder. Stamps on the right rudder. Wonders why the glider's slewing sideways on the grassy strip. I don't know what they're doing out there, but I'm happy. Done. Time to put these away. Time to cut off our Sacrificial strings. Time to hang up our thing, whatever it's called. Banana. Slack off. Yeah, and they're doing something out there. Wood cutting, some sort of sawmilling, I don't know. It's making a lot of noise, or quite a bit of noise. Okay, goodbye strings, you have done your service. I watched Cesar Blues guitar the other day. Somebody came across from his channel and said, "Hey, I'm here because Cesar sent me." So I went across and Cesar did a video on changing a nut on his PRS. And he was very highly complimentary about my nut, everything I know about nuts in 15 minutes video. It was very kind of him. I was very honoured because he's a great player and a good internet teacher. He can play 1 trillion times better than I can, which I'm always in awe of people who can play really well. But yeah, it was very nice to have the accolade from him, the complimentary, whatever they call it, props. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load up some, no, I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to do the next bit, final bit of this, which is going to be the fret crowning. So as you know, I have flattened off the frets a little bit in achieving fret leveledness, and so I'm now going to paint the tops of the frets all again. I think I'm going to need to get some more of these pens, and I'm going to use this as a guide to crowning the fret. And the reason we do this is because in leveling it, we've got a nice level, relative levelness between the frets, but we've got it at the expense of flattening the frets somewhat. Now it's only a small amount, but it's enough to make the fret feel a little bit different, and also technically affect its intonation point a small amount, because when you have a flat spot, if you like, the apex of the fret moves towards the bridge side where it needs to be in the center. So what we do is we use a concave file to kind of gently sand down or file down the sticky out edges of the flat spot we've just made, and we do it whilst leaving a thin line of black marker pen on top of the fret, which is our way of knowing that we've achieved rounding off the fret but without doing anything to the height, because we've already set the height the way we want it. So that's a nifty way of knowing that, using the marker pen again for that purpose. So I'm going through fairly quickly, which means despite what it looks like, I haven't really taken much material off in the leveling. Some you'll find more than others, and you can see the wear grooves showing up on this one here, and on a few around about here in Greg's favourite section. I say, not worth sacrificing the life of all of the frets around just to bottom out those bits. You'll find by the time I've polished it out and sanded it out, that those will be very unnoticeable. And there's certainly there'll be a lot shallower pits than they were before because of the work I've done around them. So this will allow Greg to have the action a fair bit lower than it was. It will loosen up nicely the tuners so they won't be as sticky. Hopefully we'll have sanded off both the saddle apex and the through string device so that they won't break as many strings. Although, as I say, I can't really have much of a long-term guarantee on that, because it's made of copper basically, and it's going to go again as soon as the string wears a new groove in it. It'll eventually do that. But you could keep on top of it with a blade and some 400 or 600 grit sandpaper, just to keep it under check, keep it as smooth as possible on the front edge and the rear edge of the notch, so that there's little chances of possible of the string getting stressed or broken, stressed and broken. Yeah, maybe a set of those string holdery pretty things might be available, but unless they're new, they're going to suffer from the same problem that you've got. So it's I wouldn't be going on eBay looking for them unless they're an original unused Yamaha part, and for that you've got a better idea than I have how old this guitar is in terms of its when it was released and production run and so on and so forth. Whether they even still make it, I don't know. And we've also, on top of all of that, we've leveled the frets, we've put covers on the pickups, and look, we've recrowned the frets. Now, having done that, I can now give the fingerboard a good clean with this Coleman's fuel stuff, which is a good degreasant basically, and I'll just aim to remove any black pen and obvious lines of finger grease, kind of beach marks, if you know what I mean, that we often get. So it's quite grubby. After this, I think what I'll do is I'll go off and do all the polishing up bit, and then really it's only down to restringing it, oiling the board, fitting new strings, stretching them out and intonating. That will be the last sort of stages of this, so we're not far from it now. So as you can see, a little bit of elbow grease required. Come out with one massively muscular finger after doing too many of these. I was trying to get finished a sort of a fun knock-around strap that I've got kicking around from spare parts, but of all the things I don't have spare in the whole workshop is the Stratocaster jack socket, so I can't finish it. So I've ordered a couple, but they won't be here for a while. So I had this plan last night of finishing that, and I sat up here and did the wiring and thought, yay, oh, can't complete. Okay, so there we have most of the grime taken out. Now this board will get dusty again when I polish out these frets, but most of the greasy grime is already taken away. So I'm going to now go ahead and tape all this off, and I'll come back when it's time to restring and stretch and intonate and all of that finishing off stuff. In fact, the way it's looking at the moment, I probably ought to do it tonight and get it just done, you know. But I'll go off for a while and listen to the radio while I'm doing this part of it. See you in a bit. And we're back again. Polished out, pickups done, bridge done, string through thing done, frets levelled, polished out, fingerboard oiled, tuners sorted out, new tusk nut fitted precisely for size. Ooh. So now is the time to fit the new strings, and we're going to fit them and stretch them out, and that will be nearly the last thing. Just check the intonation. Mind you, the intonation is always a funny old one. I was discussing this with Greg the other day, actually. You know, the whole point being that the intonation is such a imprecise thing. You know, the fact that we all press our strings down differently. No two people press the same force, and the same person never presses with the same force twice in a row. So, you know, it's very, very difficult to set intonation for somebody else. It's always a sort of compromise, the best possible compromise based on, you know, an average. But of course it's an average of how hard you hit the strings or how hard you typically press the strings. Now we all try and press them as little as lightly as possible, I suppose, but we don't all succeed, and so therefore we all have a different kind of force, and therefore the intonation will change slightly for each of us, because it's a measure of our pressing force and the distance. So while we're trying to basically set the right length of string for the way we play, and of course for the other variables, which is the type of strings we're using, the thickness of the string and so on, whilst we're trying to do that, we can only at best approximate it, all of which makes sort of talk of, you know, expensive tuning units and oscilloscope tuners and so on are just a bit of a laugh, really, because the variation in how you and I individually fret the string, fret the notes, and you know how we do it differently 5 days in a row, all make fussing about a expensive tuner just a bit of a laugh, really. Okay, so I'm just doing the first two strings on the D and the G first, just so they kind of Really, I want them to hold the nut down firmly as possible. Well, it came off, so I glued it back on with a bit more glue this time. It was very lightly done last time. Missed. Always a good idea to line up your holes before you start. This one's still too tight. Yes, so there we are. 3 final things to do. A couple of final things to do are new strings on like this, followed by stretching them out and then checking and tweaking the intonation. I've not adjusted a bridge like this before, so I'm hoping it's not going to provide any trouble, because the problem we've got with it is there's a very small amount of intonation adjustment room, so if it doesn't want to intonate properly, then there's nothing else I can do about it. I'm presuming that up till now it's been pretty well set for Greg's playing style, so I'm not going to worry too much about it either which way. I'm going to presume, as an experienced player, he knows where it should be for him. Okay, 2 more and we'll be done. I hope this one E doesn't suddenly break on the apex of the bridge saddle. What am I doing? Okay, still pouring down with rain outside. Just going to come back on that, snip this off now before I wind it round. Now wind it round. Boop boop to you. Okay. Can you believe William Shatner went into space for 10 minutes? I mean, it's quite a cool televisual type thing to happen, you know. Only in Hollywood style America could it happen. But don't begrudge it. Lucky guy. I'm glad it moved him so much, actually. That's the main thing. Oop. Okay, let's have a note. Let's tune up first. Okay, so the stretchy game I'm going to do, if I can zoom out, stretchy game on these strings is stretch, grab, stretch between thumb and forefingers. I'm going to do it until there's no more detuning, and then we'll be convinced or confident that it's going to play and stay in tune most of the time, bar for a little bit of, you know, when you put it in the case, the tuners turn on their own when they get bunked against the side and stuff like that. But if we get all of the slack stretched out now, we'll be good. Now I'm conscious that we don't know whether this saddle down here is still risky, so I'm not going to drag the string around too much. Right, a bit more stretching. Ouch, 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 ouch. Painful. I often mention that I used to, for a short while, use a plastic string stretching tool, but I have to say I've found it broke more strings. And the last time I said that, about 2 guitars ago, maybe 1 guitar ago, the last time as I said that, I broke a string stretching it by hand instead. So it was a bit of a unlucky blight. But I didn't like the feel. Can you hear that? That's very little detuning now, so we're close to being in tune. Right, I'm just going to get the cable and we're going to take a, where's the doofer? We're going to, right, we're trying to intonate, and it better be right because I don't fancy adjusting the thing down there, because they seem fairly far back as it is. That's about right. Yeah, I'm not going to adjust that. It's so close, and I'm figuring that's going to be where Greg likes it. So all I'm going to do now is put the strap buttons back on. Come back to me, please. Thank you. And I have one of them is missing. One of them, the felts are squashed, but one of them is missing a felt. So let's stick some felts on. 2 black felts, please. Thank you. Right, first one. Where were we at? Where were we at? Long thin bit to the back. So there we go. Fine. So that's it, all done. Happy to say, taken care of everything I wanted to take care of. So that is good. Frankly, I don't know how this particular strap button thing works, because it it wasn't working the way I imagined it worked. So I'm going to put this on through there, turn it, put that on there, put it around the right way. Oh, right, get it up the right way. Thinking right-handed, not a good thing to think. Round you go. No, that's the wrong way around. Oh, lordy. Let's just put that one in here first. Right, Samuel, get this right way around. That. Come round this way. Come round that way. Holy cactus. This one, come off. Oh, wait a minute. Which way round is... Never know which way round it is. That looks like it's the correct way round now. That looks right. Yes, it must be right. Let's take this one. I think that's us done. Sorry, it's all drawn out, long drawn out, but I'll just do this. Make sure this is tightened up. Very good. Make sure this is tightened up. Yep. Okay. There we have it. The Yamaha AES620, something like that. Done and very much dusted. New covers. Fixed things. Obviously I can't play this left-handed at all. Although Greg can play left-handed things right-handed, or he can play right-handed. But I can't. So this is going to go out unheard. There we have it. Thanks for watching, and see you on another one.